So at this point, we will have Dr. Andaya and Dr. Larry first.
Okay, sure.
Okay, good afternoon, Sir Alfredo Derecho and to Mr. Gaudencio Andaya. Pleasant afternoon.
Good afternoon po.
Okay, and Mr.
Is Dr. Larry.
Sir
The one
Larry.
using Galaxy A70. Please put on your mic or your
Video for you to be recognized. Anyway, perhaps we could already proceed and we advise Mr. Andaya to proceed with the presentation of your title and then the IPO and then the statement of the problem and your that's for now. Okay? Okay, you
Kasi
can
ano
share
share
the presentation, Mr. Andaya.
Yes, ma'am. Wait. Nakikita niyo na po ba, ma'am?
Yes.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Dr. Gaudencio and Andaya Jr. I am a Doctor of Public Administration graduate of Lyceum way back 2014, and I'm taking here at Ifugao State University Doctor Philosophy major in Educational Management. And for today, I am tasked, of course, to have my final defense for my dissertation, which is entitled The Implementation of the K-12 Program in the City of San Fernando, Province of La Union. And taking into consideration about, of course, my title, the title itself, the background of the study is actually the implementation of the Republic Act 10533 or the Enhanced Basic Educational Act of 2013. And before its implementation, the parents were so reluctant while the length of studies of their children become longer by 2 years, which means more years for them to work for the education of their children. And after 5 years of implementation, the researcher wanted to know more how the Department of Education started this new education program and was able to implement at least for 5 years now in spite of problems affecting their takeoff. This study used the descriptive method of research in coming up with the output. So it is used the average weighted mean for the level of readiness and extent of implementation of the K-12 and critical ratio for the significant difference of the perceptions of the parents and the school management. This study sought to assess the implementation of the K-12 program in the selected schools in the city of San Fernando, La Union, and the findings of this study will be the basis for proposed intervention measures. So we have here the statement of the problem. Under the statement of the problem, specifically it sought to answer the following problems, like the specifics of problems as stated in number 1, status of the K-12 program in the city of San Fernando, La Union. The answers based on the findings, we have the selected schools in the city of San Fernando. I just have to enlarge the San Fernando prepared for the 2016 start of the K-12 program. Before 2016, the City of Schools Division Office conducted orientation already and seminar workshops to teachers on topics like curriculum designing, class programming, time allocation per subject, and preparations wait, there, it's preparations of materials for the assessment of the ratings for the learning outcomes of the students and preparations for facilities and equipment needed. School buildings were prepared for more classrooms to accommodate students, especially in grade 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12, with the needed charts posted inside the classrooms and serviceable armchairs for the students. And the interplay on class coordination of the Department of Education and the City Government of San Fernando La Union was strengthened to assist and complement each other on the needs and requirements needed in the implementation of the K-12 program. And lastly, the subject features of the K-12 were emphasized like the strengthening early childhood education, universal kindergarten, making the curriculum relevant to learners, centralization and enhancement, building proficiency through language, the mother tongue, multilingual education, and ensuring the integrated and semesters learning. We have the spiral progression and gearing up for the future senior high school. And of course, to complete the status of the K-12 program in the city of San Fernando, La Union, in the selected schools of the city of San Fernando, the number of teachers capable to teach in senior high school was quite enough. They had relevant in-service trainings attended being supported by the leadership in their schools, and to add to the trainings for the teachers, specializations trainings in NC1 and NC2 should be provided to all school teachers before 2016. These teachers targeted to prepare reports and syllabi at the given time. And for the solve problems number 2, level of readiness of the selected schools in the city of San Fernando in implementing K-12 program, along the curriculum design of subjects for every grade level from grade 7 to grade 12, it was described as ready with an average weighted mean of 4.6, and this implies that the design to be followed in teaching the subjects are ready to be used by the teachers. And in item number 2, in terms of adequacy of learning resources, equipment and technology facilities like books, posters, LCD, audiovisual, computer, laboratory, classroom, science laboratory, and literally, it was only described as moderately ready with an average weighted mean of 3.32, and it only implies the need to add to more learning resources, equipment, and technology facilities. And on class programming and time allocation, it was described as ready with an average weighted mean of 4, and it implies that the readiness still needs to be improved. And on number 4, as a whole, it was described as ready with a total average of weighted mean of 4.85. This implies that it is better if the total scenario could have been described as very much ready. And for specific sub-problem under number 3, extent of the implementation of K-12 program by the selected schools in the city of San Fernando, La Union, as perceived by the parents and the school management. Under number 1 of sub-problem number 3, the implementation of the curriculum design of the 8 selected schools was perceived as fully implemented. Educational resources, it was perceived as implemented. Class programming was described as fully implemented, and learning outcomes was measured with the well-preparedness of the graduates to land a job. And for number 4 solve problem, significant difference in the perception of the parents and the school management on the extent of implementation of the K-12 program. The computed p-value was 1.47 at a p point of 0.18, which was lower than the critical value of 2.31 at p.5. Therefore, the difference in the means was not significant. Thus, the null hypothesis was accepted. Hence, there was no significant difference in the level of implementation of the K-12 program as perceived by the parents and the school authorities. And for sub-problem number 5, problems encountered by the selected schools in the implementation of the K-12 program and how serious are these problems. It is stated here that problems were encountered during the first and second year of implementation of the K-12 program, like the lack of teachers, not enough rooms for the students, lack of classroom equipment needed by the students, lack of classroom chairs, and lack of books. And it was described as very serious, with a total average weighted mean of 4.70 as perceived by the teachers and parents. These problems were little by little solved with the assistance of the LGU, the parents, and the DepEd. So, after the statement of the problems and its solved problems, which its corresponding answer, we already have here the findings. The status of implementation of K-12 was not a big problem because of strong partnership of the Department of Education and LGU through the school board. So the proposed measures here, we have sustained the good relationship of the DepEd and the LGU in the implementation of their findings through the school board. The selected schools in the city of San Fernando was described as ready in implementing the K-12 program. The readiness of the school should be sustained and keep on improving. And on the extent of implementation, it was described as implemented as prescribed and scheduled with the assistance of the PTA. So it has a big help yung ating Parents Teachers Association because we have here strengthening the Parents Teachers Association as an arm to improve the implementation of the K-12 program, sustaining educational encounter with the parents to familiarize them with the new approach of educating their children, mobilizing the PTA for the provision of other needs of the school. And for number 4 findings, there is no significant difference in the perceptions of the parents and the school management on the implementation of the K-12 program. It's strengthening the Parents Teachers Association as an arm to improve the implementation of the K-12 program, sustaining educational encounter with the parents to familiarize them with the new approach of educating their children, and mobilizing the PTA for the provision of other needs of the school. And problems encountered during the first and second year of implementation, like lack of teachers, not enough rooms, lack of classrooms equipment, and lack of books, but with the good relationship of the DepEd and the LGU, the problems were solved little by little. Because to solve the problems encountered, still strengthening the Parents Teachers Association as an arm to improve the implementation of the K-12 programs, and sustaining educational encounter with the parents to familiarize them with the new approach of educating their children, continuing capability building activities for the teachers, and submitting lists of the needs of the school to the local school board and to the Department of Education. And of course, mobilizing the PTA for the provision of other needs of the school. And the conclusion goes this way: the selected schools in the city of San Fernando, La Union that implemented the K-12 program were well prepared with the full support of the city government, except to some learning resources that were inadequate and the qualified teachers that were not within their control. And for number 2, the level of readiness was brought about by the preparation of the DepEd and with the full support of the LGU through the city school board. The level of implementation was done smoothly in spite of some problems. And for number 4 conclusion, the parents and school authorities understood each other, hence no difference on their perspective. The problems encountered were solved by the teachers and parents, making up the Parents Teachers Association. And the proposed measures were both parties, the parents and the teachers, were able for both parties, for both parties, the parents and the teachers. And for recommendations, the status of the K-12 program in the city of San Fernando can still be improved and sustainable with better projections on the needs of the students, like the learning resources. With better preparations and readiness of the schools, the students will enjoy their educational journey. Although the implementation was in the level of implemented in the selected schools, the problems encountered need to be addressed by coordinating with the Parents Teachers Association to provide the lacking learning requirements in order to achieve the level of fully implemented with all the needed learning sources. And that's all about the background of the study, which is entitled The Implementation of the K-12 Program in the City of San Fernando, La Union.
Sir Andaya, let us directly proceed with the comments from the members of the panel. First thing first, on the title, I think we have already decided on their title, which is the K-12 program in the public high schools in the city of San Fernando, La Union. Would that be fine, Sir Bob?
Madam Chair, first I'd like to acknowledge Dr. Larry Caminero. He is around already. He's the owner of Galaxy A70. He's the
Good
Executive
afternoon
Director of
po.
Philippine Counselors League. In the Philippine Counselors League Legislative Academy is joining us at the back.
Okay. Welcome, sir, and good afternoon, sir. Okay. With the title, sir.
Let me just comment. I am looking at the content of the manuscript of Dr. Andaya. While the title says the implementation of the K-12 there are two sub-problems that I am able to see: the status and then the readiness. When we went into the presentation of the implementation, we first went into the readiness of the schools and then the actual status of the schools, which will be perceived as the implementation of the K-12 program. Although in the statement of the problem, all the three were identified. And for me, only the two variables should be presented: the readiness and the status, because readiness and status would mean the components of the implementation of the K-12. So instead of three variables, there are only two variables that should really be studied: the readiness of the schools, which was discussed, and then of course the actual status, which would mean the implementation of the K-12 program. That's my perception of that change.
Yes, Sir Bob, same observation here actually. So, with that, are we okay with the title? We did just say it as the K-12 program in the public high school in the city of San Fernando, which would cover already the readiness, the level of readiness, and the status of the implementation of the K-12 program.
Yeah, Madam Chair, that will have to be highlighted in the introduction and the scope and the limitation. But the title will be already there. I mean, it's a very short title, which would be the two variables that we are discussing.
Yes. Okay, with the chapter 1 on the introduction, we advise the researcher to cite your references properly and use your recent related literature or studies, because some of the studies cited were already obsolete or outdated. If you
Yes po.
look for a recent edition of your references.
Yes
And,
po, ma'am.
improve the presentation of your ideas or your concepts, the translation from one topic to another, or one paragraph to the next, so that we could see the relationship of the concepts that you are discussing.
Yes, ma'am. Noted
And
po.
we are ready to follow the 7th edition of a format. And that is for my comment under introduction. Dr. Jen.
Yeah, let's go back to your abstract. Your abstract presented to us the findings of your study and the conclusions and recommendations. Please follow the writing. In writing the abstract, just a discussion of your purpose of the study, the method, the result, and the recommendation that you will give. And yes, as a rejoinder with the introduction given by Madam President, you have to discuss intensively the variables in your introduction. So you have to establish the gap, because we need to read that one, and please put the subheadings, and the clear subheadings would be the three variables of grading that was mentioned. What is the readiness, the implementation, and perhaps the problems encountered, because usually we should be looking into the three variables, but as much as this is finished already, where you can go back on a discussion on those variables in your introduction.
Well noted na.
Yes, for the conceptual framework, for the conceptual framework, it would be given in your recommendations later. And so, IPO, we have figured this schematic diagram and the narrative of the study.
Author of Nilo.
In the narrative of the study, Dr. Wilson, the narrative of the study, the one that you have placed in your notebook, because we are looking into the effect of the different variables you have considered. That will also be considered in the discussion in your conceptual framework, which will be given by Ma'am Anas, because we will be giving her our input. The input will be your teachers, the respondents of the study, your teachers, and your parents.
Yes po.
will be the input, and then the process will be what you have placed in the input. You look into the status of K-12, the readiness, number 2, the implementation, wala na po yung significance.
Wala.
And then,
Dr. Andaya and to Sir Derecho and to Sir Larry, thank you so much. Congratulations, Dr. Andaya, for surmounting again another hurdle.
Yes, I really want to say thank you first to my PCLLA family, of course, na sumuporta since way back 2018 and up to now. They're still there supporting us in De La Union Hub, especially sa Baguio. And of course, sa Ifugao State University, I'm really thankful kasi at last, konting ano na lang, konting kembot na lang po matatapos na rin ito, and we're very happy po kasi finally I had this chance to have my final defense, and ayun nga po napansin ko na medyo may kakulangan itong study ko, pero may kagandahan po yung mga inilagay niyo pong mga suggestions, and I know this will be a big help sa syudad ng San Fernando, since ito nga po sa syudad ng San Fernando po, kumbaga sa Manila, we have the University Belt. Dito rin po sa syudad ng San Fernando, nandito po kasi lahat ng schools from private to public. Dito po kasi talaga yung sentro. Kaya nga din po, para makagawa kami ng mas maganda po na ano din, na mga resolution o ordinansa para sa edukasyon. Ito po, at lagi din lang naman po, the last time I had a meeting with the City School Board, ito nga rin din po, pinapaigting din namin po kasi yung mga pwede pa naming ma-extend na tulong since nga ito pandemic. So yun, kaya of great help po ito talaga itong study na to. Plus yung talagang nirecommend nyo po, talagang mas busog na busog po itong magiging libro ko po. Thank you so much PCLLA and to my IPSU family.
Yeah, that's nice to hear.
Tapos nagulat lang po kasi ako sa group chat natin, merong Gaudencio Andaya. Tapos natatag po ako, tapos nakita ko hindi po ako noon. Kasi sabi ko, I'm using Doc Timeless Yari. I have 2 FB account, Doc Timeless Yari at saka Doc Timeless Yari 2. Tapos may Gaudencio Andaya. Tapos sabi ko, kaya pala minsan hindi ko nababasa kasi hindi po pala ako yung Gaudencio Andaya. I would like to ask po kung estudyante po natin yung Gaudencio Andaya ngayon.
Titignan ko po sa listahan, sir.
Ay opo, kasi yung pangalan ko po Gaudencio N. Andaya Jr. Pero meron po kayong na-add yata sa FB na Gaudencio Andaya. Nung tinignan ko po, sabi ko hindi pa po ako masyadong matanda. May anak po yun kasi. Tapos correct ko lang, yes po, correct ko lang din po, yung na-enroll ko po ata is Doctor of Philosophy, major in Educational Management, pero yung nagre-reflect po kasi sa mga program po na naibibigay ay ano lang po, major in Management po ata.
Okay, sige. We will check on that, Dr. Andaya.
Thank you po IPSU family. Maraming salamat po sa aking mga kasamahan sa PCLLA. Namiss ko po ang Bayview Park Hotel.
Okay, God bless.
God bless, thank you po ulit. Bye-bye po.
Bye. Congratulations.
Thank you po ulit. God bless din po and stay safe.
Okay. I put you now in the waiting room.
Oh my God, I'm done. Pinagpawisan ako, grabe. Mark! 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 Ano na ako?